Welcome back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Sivan Raviv, coming to you live from Israel with all of the latest breaking stories and developments coming out of the region. Let's round up all of the latest news. Iran is said to have proposed a new deal to the United States aimed at reopening the Strait of Hormuz and bringing the war to an end while delaying talks on its nuclear program to a later stage. According to reports, the proposal was passed through Pakistani mediators amid an ongoing deadlock in the negotiations and internal disagreements within Iran's leadership over possible nuclear concessions. The reported framework would focus first on restoring shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global oil route, before addressing the more contentious issue of uranium enrichment. U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to hold a Situation Room meeting on the developments as diplomatic efforts continue. Earlier, however, President Trump said the United States is halting direct Iran negotiations in Pakistan, declaring that Tehran can instead, quote-unquote, call us if it wants to continue talks. Let's take a listen to Trump.
If they want to talk, they can come to us or they can call us. You know, there is a telephone. We have nice secure lines, although I'm not sure any telephone line is secure, frankly, but we have secure lines, and if they want, we can talk. But we're not sending people to travel 18 hours to meet where you literally think of this. We had a meeting for Tuesday, and it was on Saturday that I was saying, when are we meeting? Tuesday, because it's so far. So great respect for Pakistan, but I will, because they've been terrific. They've really tried, and they'll stay involved. But we're going to do it by telephone. So if they want, they can call us. But again, they know what has to be in the agreement. Very simple. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. Otherwise, there's no reason to meet.
An IDF soldier has been killed and 6 others wounded in a Hezbollah explosive drone strike in southern Lebanon, marking a serious escalation despite the ongoing ceasefire. The fallen soldier has been identified as 19-year-old Sergeant Idan Fuchs from the city of Petah Tikva. The incident occurred in the town of Taiba inside Israel's declared security zone after a tank from the 77th Battalion became disabled. As troops worked to repair the vehicle, a drone struck nearby, killing Fuchs and wounding 6 soldiers, 4 of them seriously. During the evacuation, Hezbollah launched 2 additional explosive drones. One was intercepted while the second landed near the forces in a rescue helicopter without causing further casualties. This is the 3rd IDF fatality in southern Lebanon since the ceasefire began and the first from a direct Hezbollah attack as cross-border clashes continue to intensify. Here's Netanyahu on this.
לגבי לבנון, מתקבל הרושם שכאילו צה"ל לא פועל שם. הוא פועל בעוצמה. וצריך להבין שההפרות של חיזבאללה למעשה מפוררות את הפסקת האש. ולכן מבחינתנו מה שמחייב אותנו זה ביטחון ישראל, ביטחון חיילינו, ביטחון יישובינו. ואנחנו פועלים באופן נמרץ לפי כללים שסיכמנו עם ארצות הברית וגם אגב עם לבנון. וזה אומר חופש פעולה, לא רק להגיב להתקפות, זה ברור. אלא לסכל איומים מיידיים ולסכל גם איומים מתהווים. בשבועיים האחרונים, לפי פיקוד צפון, אנחנו חיסלנו 46 מחבלים, ואנחנו נפעל ביד חזקה ובזרוע נטויה. משום שאנחנו לא מוכנים לקבל את ההתפרעות הזאת, נעשה מה שצריך כדי להחזיר את הביטחון לצפון.
The IDF says it carried out a wave of airstrikes and artillery fire targeting Hezbollah operatives and infrastructure in southern Lebanon, north of the Israeli-held security zone. According to the military, targets included rocket launch squads preparing attacks, a loaded and ready-to-fire launcher, a weapons depot, and additional military structures used by the terror group. The IDF also said it struck operatives inside a building linked to Hezbollah, as well as another operative riding a motorcycle. Overnight, additional strikes hit buildings used for military purposes, while ground forces from the 146th Division located a multi-barrel launcher. Prime Minister Netanyahu accused Hezbollah of ruining the chances for the ceasefire in Lebanon to succeed. And as these tensions with Hezbollah remain high and a fragile ceasefire holds in Lebanon, we're now joined by Dr. Barak Books, the Patterson Chair in Security and Intelligence and lecturer at the Political Studies and School of Communication at Bar-Ilan University. Hi, Barak.
Good afternoon.
So, Barak, we have a ceasefire in Lebanon, but also deadly incidents and strikes. Just yesterday, a Hezbollah attack and another fallen soldier. Is this a ceasefire in practice or just on paper?
I can say no, because first of all, we're having a Lag BaOmer next week, and the tradition in Israel is visit the tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and there is a limit on tops of only 1,500, cancellation of the whole traditional ceremony.
And so is this ceasefire about to end? If not now, then maybe after that?
It's a good question. First of all, today at 11:30 before noon, Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Qassem, held a speech. He said he does not acknowledge any talks between Lebanon and Israel, culminating with terms as high treason almost. Let's say that there are talks with the Lebanese government, which are highly significant because there are talks of peace. The word, let's say, illuminates the area. But as Hezbollah operates and implements, and sadly to say, tactics of the 90s, when we had posts of the IDF in the security zone in the days of the South Lebanese army, Hezbollah raided these areas as now. And practically there are numerous violations of the ceasefire with Katyusha rockets and other rockets and drones, as we saw. So practically there is no ceasefire.
Are we looking at a renewal of fighting? Would you say Hezbollah is testing the limits of the ceasefire, or are they actually preparing for a larger round of fighting?
Okay, I want to say this. Until the last round with Iran, Hezbollah was more, let's say, reluctant in operating. But Naim Qassem changed his image, branded himself not as being a picture of his predecessor, Hassan Nasrallah. And he's now acting in a branded, more courage manner. You know, he's using blunt words and blunt activities and threatens. He did not do so a few months ago. So what Hezbollah does now, he's drawing a new equilibrium that albeit there is a formal ceasefire, Hezbollah returned to operate in South Lebanon, yes.
Now we are seeing continued operations. We're seeing strikes. We're seeing casualties. The IDF is certainly striking Hezbollah back. What does that say about control on the ground in southern Lebanon? Who's in control?
First of all, indeed, Israel is retaliating. The Israeli army is quite strong and is retaliating against Hezbollah. And there are many civilian Lebanese, even Shiites, that oppose that, the acts of Hezbollah. They do want normalization. They do want, as us in the northern parts of Israel, to return to their homes in a normal manner. There is control. The IDF controls many parts of South Lebanon, more widely than a few months ago. But Hezbollah infiltrated the area. Hezbollah is blockading. People of Hezbollah are blockading themselves in some areas, and there are severe fightings. You know, the whole facade of the Lebanese army dismantling Hezbollah. I talked in previous interviews about statistics held by the commander of the South Litani area and the commander of the Lebanese army, presented to the president of Lebanon and even to President Macron in France. 200 tunnels and 100 Katyusha rocket launchers, etc., just as an explanation. But I did not say that the Lebanese army did not operate, but it was insignificant in a comparison to what we see now. Hezbollah either built itself or had numerous weapons. All of that is needed to be taken care of before drawing the final line of the ceasefire and any agreement with Lebanon. It cannot continue.
How fragile and how volatile is the situation right now, in your opinion?
In one word, very. Because we see the situation in Iran and we cannot tell if the talks were canceled or are being continued through telephone, or whether Witkoff and Kushner are going to fly again. Everything, you know, is unclear. But the Iranians, and I must say that, their leadership is not a unified leadership. We can say that there is a splinter between the political grid and the revolutionary guards, which are the military grid. There are disagreements. There are even tweets of Arakchi that were erased, and blunt words as you do not represent us. How can you say that? And demonstrations in Iran against their own representatives, saying you don't have any mandate to talk. We see these splinters, and all of that affects the situation badly.
Do you think that the Lebanese situation is tied directly to the Iranian situation?
We can say that there is a check that the Iranians want to implement all of their proxies. I didn't say the Houthis, by the way. I didn't say Hashad al-Shabi and other Iraqi organizations. And they were built upon decades to serve Iran in times of war, yes.
And at the same time, we are seeing rare direct talks between Israel and Lebanon, historic even, and President Aoun and Prime Minister Netanyahu may even meet soon, according to Trump. How significant is this, given that Hezbollah is not fully part of this process and maybe may never be?
I want to add two lines. First of all, in 1983, in May, Israel and Lebanon signed a peace treaty. Israel called it peace. The Lebanese called it a treaty to end the war, the Shlom HaGalil war. They did. And I'm adding that there was an Israeli embassy in Beirut for 2 years, between 1982 and 1994, and even an economic attaché in Beirut, operating for 2 years. Now, that being said, there were talks up till a few months ago, even civilian talks between Israel and Lebanon in Rosh HaNikra 2 times. And there is the gas rig agreement between Israel and Lebanon. So there are talks, and there are innuendos of the word peace, but I must say this. They have a problem talking about normalization and using the word peace. Even in the gas rig agreement, only a clerk gave the paper and ran away, not to be taken in a photo op with the Americans and the Israelis.
And how much control does the Lebanese government actually have? We know that it's been very difficult for them to take any part of disarming Hezbollah. Can they deliver on any commitments?
I can say academically that one of my studies is scrutinizing the tweets of the Lebanese spokesperson, the Lebanese army spokesperson. They do claim that they are operating against crime and against pockets, even of ISIS. There are some in Tripoli, and against Palestinians, etc., and that they have an effective government of arresting those that oppose the country and trying them immediately. They even tried and accused of crimes some Hezbollah members, and even wanted to deport the Iranian ambassador. But they have an ability to impose the law, but it's up till now a limited ability. I must conclude with that many European countries and even the Americans are building the Lebanese army in order to be as the American National Guard, to keep the peace. But the Hezbollah was being built by Iran to be an army, like a military, attacking the neighbors. So it's a little bit unbalanced.
But can there be any real agreement, even looking forward, without addressing and solving once and for all Hezbollah's military presence?
There can be an agreement, and the Lebanese army can proclaim that they're going to impose the law over all Lebanon. And they did proclaim up till now, a few weeks ago, that Hezbollah is not recognized by the Lebanese government. It's a criminal organization. But to your question, we have Nabi Berri, the head of Amal movement, who also heads the parliament of Lebanon. He's Shiite, but from Amal movement, and he is some sort of a linking person between Hezbollah and the government because he represents the government. But as a Shiite, he opposes some nuances of the government against Hezbollah. And he's, by the way, the one to mediate with Hezbollah. So he acts in two roles, and this can be maybe the solving this conundrum in some sort of an agreement between Hezbollah and them. But with the final sentence, Hezbollah are Shiites. The Shiites were considered to be the lowest sect in Lebanon. Now they're claiming they're the majority, and they want their dignity and honor, according to their words, in receiving even the presidency. Somebody in Lebanon should solve that and give them some political way out, and the Lebanese said that. The solution is political.
And at the same time, I would like to take a look at Israel's north. They've now had residents of the north return to routine, despite the fact that there's still sirens and still drones and, 15 seconds or less, that's time to get to shelter once a siren goes off. Was this the right decision to bring the residents of the north back to routine, given this reality?
First of all, I want to correct, sadly, it's not a regular routine, and there are demonstrations of residents of the north that they have drones and rockets and sirens. And I even saw pictures, and the Lebanese and Hezbollah are launching them when people and students at school are returning home, so it's very dangerous. Let's hope for better times.
Many residents of the north certainly don't think a ceasefire should have been called. They're under constant threat, as I mentioned. How can they live with a continued threat to their lives if this ceasefire goes on, if Trump decides that it should go on?
We're now thinking in the war meetings, even of the cabinet, how to relate to the situation. On the one hand, a ceasefire. But on the other hand, practically, Hezbollah does not recognize it. We need to solve that. This cannot go on, and the north can be and should be, as other parts of Israel, living in quiet children, and I want to quote as an end, Menachem Begin in 82, the children of Kiryat Shmona are equal to go peacefully to schools as the children of Moscow and Washington. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you say that Israel could lose the north if this continues, if this is not sorted out?
God forbid, and I want to say to the viewers that I'm 8 generations from the city of Tzfat, a resident of the north originally, and
Wow.
the north is an imminent part of the country, and all of the viewers are welcome to listen to Bar-Ilan University, where I came from. I have a podcast about Tzfat in 48. The British had offered us to leave the city as Hebron to be clean of Jews. And we fought, the ancient congregation, for our lives. The north is an imminent part of Israel. It's an inseparable part of Israel.
Absolutely. I was just referring to the fact that if residents of the north are in despair over a long period of time, they may ultimately leave, and people will not want to live there under
Where?
threat.
Because in the last war we saw that even the Gush Dan area was a fighting
Central.
area. Yes.
You are absolutely right. Well, Dr. Barak Books, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And now on to another topic. Israeli President Isaac Herzog is said to be pursuing legal creativity and innovation as he seeks to position himself as a bridge in a legal and political battle that has sharply polarized Israeli society. Herzog has for now rebuffed Prime Minister Netanyahu's request for a presidential pardon, instead calling for renewed negotiations aimed at reaching a plea deal. The development comes after several public calls by U.S. President Donald Trump publicly advocating that Herzog grant Netanyahu a pardon. Netanyahu, who's on trial for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust, has denied all wrongdoing and argues the case is politically motivated. The trial was due to renew today after a 2-month pause due to the Iran war, but shortly before Netanyahu's testimony it was cancelled, reportedly due to security concerns. And former Prime Ministers Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid have announced plans to run as a united slate in this year's upcoming Knesset elections. Their new party, called Yachad, which means together, led by Naftali Bennett, will merge Yesh Atid with Bennett's political faction in what they describe as a first step toward healing divisions within Israeli society. Bennett described the move as a Zionist and patriotic act, saying the new alliance aims to bring about a new era for Israel through unity and professional governance. He said the new government would prioritize a state commission of inquiry into the October 7th massacre. They'll end funding for IDF draft evaders and impose term limits on the prime minister, including himself. Lapid said the country needs unity as much as it needs air to breathe, framing the merger as a first step in a broader shift in national leadership and direction. Let's take a listen to both.
ביום הראשון לממשלה החדשה בראשותי נקים ועדת חקירה ממלכתית לטבח 7 באוקטובר כדי להביא אמת למשפחות ותשובות לכל עם ישראל. אנחנו נוביל חוק שירות לכולם ונפסיק לממן השתמטות אפילו בשקל אחד. נקצוב כהונת ראש ממשלה ל8 שנים וזה יחול קודם כל עליי. אנחנו נשמור על אדמות ארצנו ולא נמסור סנטימטר לאויב.
אנחנו פה מפני שהמדינה הזו זקוקה לאיחוד כאוויר לנשימה. אנחנו עומדים פה יחד בשביל כל מי שמאמין בדמוקרטיה, מאמין ביסוד היהודי העמוק של המדינה, מאמין בערכי הציונות ובזכותנו על הארץ הזו.
And so some major developments on Israel's political front with this new alliance and continued legal drama surrounding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We are now joined by Mitchell Barak, political solutionist and former advisor to President Shimon Peres, to discuss the current political landscape in Israel. Hi, thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me.
So how big of a deal is this merger between Naftali Bennett and Yair Lapid? Is this a game changer or just pre-election positioning?
Well, it's all a game changer, and it means the elections are starting. Meaning now it's the opening. It's like opening day, where they're now getting together two parties, and they're saying together we're going to unite together, and we are going to defeat the great monster Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this alliance actually shift the balance of power, or is the political map still largely the same?
I actually think it helps Netanyahu because it shows that everyone has Everyone has to gang up against Netanyahu in order to beat him. I mean, Netanyahu has been prime minister for many, many years because he's the leader and he's in charge and there's nobody like him and he doesn't want to share power. So these guys come along and say, hey, we're together, we're leaders, we're a tag team. And I may be prime minister for 2 years, and maybe I'll give it to my buddy Yair for another 2 years, and maybe Gadi Eisenkot will come and he'll take part in it. And it all sounds nice if you're a team, but at the end of the day, if this is a race about leadership and responsibility, he's one guy going up against everyone else. And that's why he keeps getting reelected. He keeps getting reelected because even though he has faults and even though he's made mistakes, he's the only one that says, I am the only guy that can lead Israel. And that is very compelling to the Israeli voter. It is significant that they're getting together. There are a lot of people that either want to vote for Lapid or want to vote for Bennett. I think Bennett got the better end of the deal here because Yair Lapid has been around for a long time. He built a party from scratch. He's been in the Knesset for a long time consistently, and he has won a lot of seats and had a lot of mandates over those years. Bennett has been in and out of the Knesset in different parties. He has electoral deficit disorder. Every time he's in a new party, a new configuration, he's known for picking really, really bad people. In fact, his last government was brought down by these two clown ministers that he brought in that eventually voted against him. Of course, I mean Idit Silman and Shikli, who then just joined the Likud. I mean, they got paid for opposing him. And they continue to get paid. So he brings in really bad people. He can't judge people. And then he loses some elections, and then he wins some, and then he leaves. And Yair Lapid is really the stable one here. So, you know, even though
Lapid, looking at recent polls, he wasn't going to get much votes.
Who would listen to those stupid polls? Israeli pollsters, they say someone is not going over the threshold, right? How many times do we hear that a certain party is not going over the threshold? But the great Israeli pollsters never tell people that the threshold to get into the Knesset is 3.5%, and the margin of error on a survey of 500 people is 4.2%. So it's statistically insignificant. And there's no election. So why would anyone make decisions on that basis? We don't even know what the issues are in the party. I mean, let's look for a second at Bennett's opening statement. Mm-hmm. First day of the government, if he's elected prime minister, he's going to establish a commission of inquiry into October 7th. Yeah. That's great, and most Israelis want that. So already he's starting his first day by going back in the past, dredging up the past. And Netanyahu is going to say, what happened, happened. Let's move forward. Look at what's happened since October 7th, and let's move forward. And he's dredging that up, and he's a man of the past. And the next thing he says is, we've got to limit the term of the prime minister to 8 years, and he's going to be the first after his 8 years. Who cares about that? For the last 16 years, Israelis have elected the same individual as prime minister. That's who they want. It doesn't matter if there's a term limit or not. It looks like he's out of touch. His messaging looks off. There's no hope there. Where's the hope?
Very interesting, though. I did remark that I did notice that he didn't mention Netanyahu in the entire speech that he or Lapid made.
That's good, but that's their whole thing is we can defeat him. He said it before that he's going to be a government of correction and against the corruption, against a government of change. All that is great. All that is great, but it's also gonna help Netanyahu because now Netanyahu can still get votes back from Smotrich and Ben-Gvir by saying, "Hey guys, all these parties are ganging up against me. It's time to come back to the Likud. You can't give away your vote. We have to have a strong Likud. That's how we're gonna have the government." And at the end of the day, what's probably gonna happen is it looks Netanyahu is not gonna win. He's not gonna win, but he's not gonna lose either. And he's probably going to continue to be prime minister. And sitting next to him at the cabinet table are those two guys that we saw in the press conference.
So does this create a real alternative to Netanyahu, or is the opposition still fragmented? What about Gadi Eisenkot? Is he likely to join?
Are they sick? Well, if Gadi Eisenkot were seeking political advice, I would say if you want to be a leader, don't join as a number 2 or number 3 on another party. because maybe you'll be the leader in the next election. But nobody's ever going to consider you a leader if you come in as number 2 or number 3, and then the next election you come in and say, I'm the number 1. The guy who looks like a leader, Avigdor Lieberman. Avigdor Lieberman has said, I'm going to be the prime minister. He might be, but he's the one that says it, and he's not going to go in with these guys. He's going to run his party, and that's the way he is.
And that's
if
always been the
Eisenkot
case.
joins as number 2 or number 3, no one is ever going to see him as a leader.
And we know with Lieberman, that's always been the case, going backwards.
That's right.
So let's discuss Netanyahu's trial. That's also part of the drama revolving around Netanyahu. President Herzog is positioning himself as a mediator here. He's rejecting a pardon at the moment, and he's pushing for a plea deal. How unusual is this involvement of Herzog at the moment?
Look, it's highly unusual. I worked in the president. I was an advisor to President Shimon Peres, who's a unique and unbelievable human being, an individual, and Israeli leader. And the first thing I did when I came in, so I could see what his philosophy and thinking was I said, please show me the list of people that he pardoned so that I could see what he's trying to accomplish. Okay, because that would be a normal thing. That's really the only power the president has, to pardon and to decide who's going to call the election. And to my shock and horror, they told me that the president pardons about 400 people a year, and it's secret. They have to protect the identity of the criminal, of the pardoned criminal. And the public has no right to know who the president pardons. So the first thing is, the greatest danger to democracy is standing right there on your screen, and it's not me, it's Herzog. Herzog is the greatest danger to democracy because he has the power of pardon. It's a superpower because he can pardon people in the dark. And he pardons about 400 people a year, and we have no idea who those people are.
Now, there's been talk, even
and
several
that's a scary
times.
thought in a democracy, that the president can secretly pardon people.
But there's another president who's been getting involved, Donald Trump. There's another president who's been getting involved. That's U.S. President Donald Trump.
That's totally not okay. But first of all, Herzog can pardon people secretly. Now he's going to try and broker a deal where he can maybe get Netanyahu out of politics and do that. That's also, unorthodox. It's also not been done before. And the job of president is also to be a mediator. So he is filling that role when he does that. And he can use the pardon as a carrot or a stick and say, okay, you want to do this, you'll get the pardon. You don't do this, you won't get the pardon. And he can use that with a legal team to say, here's the agreement we came to. Here's what we think is best for the country. And I'm willing to use my pardon to do that. I was the president of Israel, Shimon Peres. I was in the room when he signed the presidential, it wasn't a pardon, it was the shortening of the sentence for Yehia Sinwar. Sinwar was let out of jail with the signature of Shimon Peres and Yaakov Ne'eman as the justice minister. So when you have that, he didn't want to let out Sinwar. The government made a decision, and then he went along with it because that's the job of the president, to be a mediator and to support the government and do what's best for the country. So he can play that role here. What is totally unacceptable is that the U.S. president is getting involved. The prime minister didn't criticize him, and none of the people in the Likud have criticized in any way. In fact, they said, of course, if the president of the United States asked for it, we should certainly do it. If it was the other way around, and if it was Obama asking Rivlin to give someone, they would be up in arms about it. So we also see that democracy here in Israel is very, very weak when you have things like this that there isn't agreement on. Everyone should agree that a president or anyone from a foreign country should not get involved in an internal Israeli judicial issue. But we don't have that. Everything is politics here. It's all politics. There's all the ends justify the means. And this is what we have to do. We're at a dangerous point right now.
Well, Mitchell Barak, thank you very much for all of this input.
Okay, have a great day.
You too. And that's a wrap for this edition of ILTV on the Hour, broadcasting live from Israel in the heart of the Middle East. We're here every hour on the hour with the latest breaking developments, in-depth reports, and exclusive insights into the stories shaping the region and the world. I'm Sivan Raviv. Thank you very much for watching.